Hey Vibe Tribe. You are rocking with your favorite friendly friend-entertainer, Stiggity Motivator, with the vibes that are greater, lover, not hater. So I was just live not too long ago, and I'm vibing. Let us start off the day with a planetary read. Within rather than a planetary read, accounts of the life of the Buddha relate that on one occasion he and his disciples were in a forest. He picked up a handful of leaves and said to his disciples, "What I have taught you is comparable to these leaves. What I have not taught you is comparable to the amount of leaves in the forest." The implication, of course, was that the Buddha had taught only a fraction of what he knew. However, there is one more important omission. Gautama, the Buddha, had next to nothing to say about God. Neither did he ever claim to be God. In fact, it is said that he told his disciples, "If there is a God, is it inconceivable that he would be concerned about my day-to-day affairs? And there are no gods who can or will help man." In this sense, Buddhism's role in mankind's search for a true God is minimal. The Encyclopedia of World Faiths observes that early Buddhism appears to have taken no account of the question of God and certainly did not teach or require belief in God. Its emphasis on each person seeking salvation on his own, turning inward to his own mind or consciousness for enlightenment. Buddhism is really agnostic, if not atheist, in trying to throw off Hinduism's shackles of superstition and its bewildering array of mythical gods. Buddhism has swung to the other extreme. It ignored the fundamental concept of a supreme being by whose will everything exists and operates, as read in Acts 17:24-25. Because of this self-centered and independent way of thinking, the result is a variable labyrinth of legends, traditions, complex doctrines, and interpretations generated by the many schools and sects over the centuries. Sects, like sector, or similar to sector. What was meant to bring a simple solution to the complicated problem of life has resulted in a religious and philosophical system that is beyond the comprehension of most people. Instead, the average follower of Buddhism is simply preoccupied with worshipping idols and relics, gods and demons, spirits and ancestors, performing many other rituals and practices that have literal to do with what Gautama, the Buddhist, taught. Clearly, seeking enlightenment without God doesn't work. At the same time, Gautama, the Buddha, was searching for the way to enlightenment in another part of the continent of Asia, where there lived two philosophers whose ideas came to influence millions of people. They were Lao Tzu and Confucius, the two sages venerated by generations of Chinese and others. What did they teach? And how did they influence mankind's search for God? That is what we'll consider in the next chapter. Taoism, Confucianism, and Buddhism constitute the three major religions of China and the Far East. Unlike Buddha, however, Taoism and Confucianism have not become world religions, but have basically remained in China and wherever Chinese culture has asserted its influence. Though no official figures of the current number of their followers in China are available, Taoism and Confucianism together have dominated the religious life of nearly 1/4 of the world's population for the past 2,000 years. Let 100 flowers bloom, let 100 schools contend. That saying, made famous by Mao Tzu of People's Republic of China in a speech in 1956, was actually a paraphrase of the expression that Chinese scholars have used to describe the era in China from the 5th to the 3rd century, called the Warring. The Warring States period. But by this time, the mighty Chao dynasty had deteriorated into a system of loosely bound feudal states that were engaged in continuous warfare, much to the distress of common people. The turmoil and suffering brought about by the wars seriously weakened the authority of the traditional ruling class. The common people were no longer content with submitting themselves to the whims and wiles of the for the aristocracy and silently suffering the consequences. As a result, long suppressed ideas and aspirations burst forth like 100 flowers. Different schools of thought advanced in their ideas of government, law, social order, conduct, and ethics. As on subjects with agriculture, music, and literature, as the means for restoring some normalcy to life, most of them did not produce lasting effect. Two schools, however, gained such prominence as they have influenced life in China. For over 2,000 years, they were what eventually came to be known as Taoism and Confucianism. Tao, what is it? To understand what Tao is, it's pronounced Taoism. It rhymes with now. And Confucianism came to wield such a deep and lasting influence in the Chinese people, as well as those of Japan, Korea, and other surrounding nations. It's necessary to have some understanding of the fundamental Chinese concept of Tao. The word itself means way, road, or path. By extension, it can also mean method, to the Chinese, the harmony and orderliness they perceived in the universe were manifestations of Tao, a sort of divine will or legislation existing and regulating the universe. In other words, instead of believing in a creator, God, who controls the universe, they believed in a providence, a will of heaven, or simply heaven itself as the cosmic. Applying the concept to Tao, applying the concept of Tao to human lives and human affairs. The Chinese believe that there is a natural and correct way to do everything, and that everything and everyone has its proper place and proper function. They believed, for example, that if the ruler performed his duty by dealing justly with the people and looking after the sacrificial rituals pertaining to heaven, there would be peace and prosperity for the nation. Similarly, if people were willing to seek out the way, or Tao, and follow it, everything would be harmonious, peaceful, and effective. But if there were to go contrary or to resist it, the result would be chaos and disaster. The idea of going with Tao is not interfering with its flow. It's a central element of Chinese and philosophical and religious thinking. It may be said that Taoism and Confucianism are two different expressions of the same concept. Taoism takes a mystical approach and, in its original form, advocates inaction, quietness, and passivity, shunning society and returning to nature. Its basic idea is that everything will come out right if people will sit back, do nothing, and let nature take its course. Confucianism, in the other one, takes a pragmatic approach. It teaches that social order will be maintained when every person plays his intended role and his duty. To that, it codifies all human and social relationships. Ruler, subject, father, son, husband, wife, and so on. And it provides guidelines for all of them. Naturally, this brings up the following questions. How did these two systems come into existence? Who are their founders? How are they practiced today? And what have they done as far as man's search for God is concerned? Then a religion. Its founder, Lao Tzu, was dissatisfied with the chaos and turmoil of the times and sought relief by shunning society and returning to nature. Not a great deal is known about the man, who is said to have lived 6th century BC. Although even that is uncertain, he was commonly called Lao Tzu, which means old master or old one, because as legend has it, his pregnant mother carried him for so long that when he was born, his hair had already turned white. The only official record about Lao Tzu is in historical records. A respected court historian of the 2nd and 1st century BC, according to the source, Lao Tzu's real name was Li Er. He served as a clerk in the imperial archives at Luoyang, central China, but more significantly, it gives this account about Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu resided in Chao most of his life. When he foresaw the decay of Chao, he departed and came to the frontier. The custom house officer, Yin, said, "Since it pleases you to retire, I request you for my sake to write a book." Thereupon Lao Tzu wrote a book of 2 parts, consisting of 5,000 and odd words, which he discussed in the concept of the way. Tao, it says, the power. Then he departed. No one knows where he died. Many scholars doubt the authenticity of this account. In any case, the book was produced is known as Tao Ching, generally translated the classic of the way and the power, and is considered the principal text of Taoism. It's written in terse, cryptic verses, some of which are only 3 or 4 words long. Because of this, and because the meaning of some characters has changed considerably since time of Lao Tzu, the book is subject to many different interpretations. In Tao Ching, Lao Tzu expounded on Tao, the ultimate way of nature, and applied it to every level of his human activity. Here we quote from a modern translation. By G.F. Feng. And to get a glimpse of Tao, there was something mysteriously formed, born before heaven and earth. Perhaps it is the mother of 10,000 things. I do not know its name. Call it Tao. All things arise from Tao. They are nourished by virtue. They are formed from matter. They are shaped by environment. Thus, the 10,000 things all respect and honor virtue. What can we deduce from these enigmatic passages? That to Taoist, Tao is some mysterious cosmic force. It is responsible for the material universe. The objective of Taoism is to search out the Tao. To leave behind the world and become at one with nature. This concept is also reflected in Taoists' view on human conduct. Here is an expression of the ideal in Tao Te Ching. I would say bring behind the world and become one, or become at one with nature. This concept is also reflected in Taoist view on human conduct. Here's an expression of the ideal in Tao Te Ching. Better stop short than fill to the brim, over sharpen the blade, and the edge will soon blunt. Amass a store of gold and jade, and no one can protect it. Claim wealth and titles, and disaster will follow. Retire when the work is done. This is the way of heaven. These few examples show that at least initially Taoism was basically a school of philosophy. Reacting to the injustices and suffering, devastation and futility that resulted from the harsh rule of the feudal system of the time. Taoists believed that the way to find peace and harmony was to bring back the tradition of the ancients before there were kings and ministers who dominated the common life, or dominated the common people. Their ideal was to live the tranquil, rural life in union with nature. Proverbs 29:2. The philosophy of Lao Tzu was carried one step further by Chuang Chao, or Chang Tzu. What? Master. I don't know how to pronunciate that. Who is considered a successor of Lao Tzu. In his book, he not only elaborated on the Tao, but also expounded on it. The ideal of yin, or the ideas of yin and yang, first developed in this era. In his view, nothing is really permanent or absolute, but everything is in a state of flux between two opposites. In the chapter, Autumn Flood, he wrote, "Nothing in the universe is permanent, as everything lives only long enough to die. Only Tao, having no beginning or end, lasts forever." Life can be likened to a fleet horse galloping at full speed. It changes constantly and continuously in every fraction of a second. What should you do? What should you not do? Because of this philosophy of inertia, Taoist view is that there is no point in anyone doing anything to interfere with that nature, or with what nature has set in motion. Sooner or later, everything will return to its opposite. No matter how unbearable a situation is, it will soon become better. No matter how pleasant the situation is, it will soon fade away. This philosophical view of life is typified in a dream by which one's common folk best remembers him. So the common folk best remember him. Once he dreamt he was a butterfly. A butterfly flittering and fluttering about, happy with himself and doing as he pleased. He didn't know he was who he was. Suddenly he woke up and there he was, solid and unmistakable. But he didn't know if he was the person who had dreamt he was a butterfly. He didn't know if he was himself who had dreamt he was a butterfly, or a butterfly dreaming he was him. The influence of this philosophy is seen in the style of poetry and painting developed by Chinese artists of later generations. Taoism, however, was not to remain as a passive philosophy for long. In their attempt to be at one with nature, Taoists became obsessed with its agelessness and resilience. They speculated that perhaps by living in harmony with Tao, or nature's way, one could somehow tap into the secret of nature and become immune to physical harm, disease, and even death. Although Lao Tzu did not make this an issue, passages seem to suggest this idea. For example, chapter 16 says, being at one with Tao is eternal, and though the body dies, the Tao will never pass away. Also contributed to such speculations. For instance, in a dialogue, one mythical character asked another, "You are of a high age, and yet you have a child's complexion. How is this?" The latter replied, "I've learnt Tao." Regarding another Taoist philosopher, they wrote, Now could ride upon the wind. Now Leitze could ride upon the wind, sailing happily in the cool breeze. He would go on for 15 days before his return. Among mortals who attain happiness, such a man is rare. Stories like these fired the imagination of Taoists. They started to experiment with meditation, dieting, and breathing exercises that supposedly could delay body decay and death. Soon, the legends began to circulate about immortals who could fly on clouds and appear and disappear at will, and who lived on sacred mountains or remote islands for countless years, sustained by dew or magical fruits. Chinese history reports that in 219 BC, the Qin Emperor sent a fleet of ships with 3,000 boys and girls to find the legendary island, the abode of the immortals, to bring back the herb of immortality. Needless to say, they did not return with the elixir, but tradition says that they populated the islands that came to be known as Japan. Magical practices of Taoism were reached. Emperor was promoting Confucianism as the official state teaching. Because they were attracted to the Taoist idea of physical immortality. He was particularly taken up with immortality pills by alchemy. In the Taoist view, life results when opposing yin and yang, female and male forces combine. Thus, by fusing lead, dark, and mercury, the alchemists were imitating the process of nature. And the product they thought would be an immortality pill. Taoists also developed yoga-like exercises, breath control techniques, dietary restrictions, and sexual practices that were believed to strengthen one's vital energy and prolong one's life. Their paraphernalia included talismans, that were said to render one invisible and invulnerable to weapons, or enable one to walk on water or fly through space. They had also made magic seals, usually containing the yin-yang symbol, affixed on the buildings and over doorways to repel evil spirits and wild beasts. By the 2nd century, Taoism became organized. A certain established Taoist secret society in Western China and practiced magical cures and alchemy. Because each member was levied a fee of 5 pecks of rice. His moment came to be known as the 5 pecks of rice Taoism, claiming that he had received a personal revelation from Lao Tzu, became the first celestial master. Finally, it was said that he succeeded in making their elixir of life and ascended alive to heaven, riding a tiger from Dragon Tiger Mountain. There started a centuries-long succession of Tao celestial masters, each said to be a reincarnation. The challenge of Buddhism. Buddhism was making inroads into Chinese religion and religious life. As a countermeasure, Taoism promoted itself as a religion with Chinese roots, was defied, and Taoist writings were canonized. Temples, monasteries, and nunneries were built, and orders of monks and nuns were established, more or less in the Buddhist fashion. In addition, Taoism also adopted its own pantheon of many gods, goddesses, fairies, and immortal Chinese folklore, such as the 8 Immortals. As time wore on, Taoism slowly degenerated into a system of idolatry and superstition. Each person simply worshipped his favorite gods and goddesses at the local temples, petitioning them for protection against evil and for help in attaining earthly fortune. The priests were for hire to conduct funerals, select favorable sites for graves, houses, and businesses, communicate with the dead, ward off evil spirits and ghosts, celebrate festivals, and perform sundry other rituals. Sundry. Did I say sundry? Sundry. I meant sundry. What started off as a school of mystic philosophy had transformed itself into religion, deeply mired in belief in immortal spirits, hellfire, and demigods. Ideas drawn from the stagnant pool of false beliefs of ancient Babylon. While we have traced the rise, development, and decay of Taoism, we should recall that it was one of the 100 schools that blossomed in China during the period of the Warring States. Another school that eventually came into prominence, in fact dominance, was Confucianism. But why did Confucianism come to prominence? Of all Chinese sages, Confucius was undoubtedly the best known outside of China. But who really was he? And what did he teach? Regarding Confucianism, we again turn to historical records. Here are some personal details quoted from a translation by the Chinese scholar Lin Yutang. Confucius was born in the town of Tsu, in the country of Changping. No, in the country of Lo. His mother prayed at the hill. Confucius, in answer to her prayer, in the 22nd year of Duke of Lu, there was a noticeable convolution on his head at his birth. That was why he was called, the word meaning a hill. Shortly after birth, his father died, and though poor, managed to provide him with a proper education. The boy developed a keen interest in history, poetry, and music. According to Analects, one of Confucian, devoted himself to scholarly study. When he reached age 15, at age 17, he was given a minor government post in his native state. Because Confucius made few comments about God, many people view Confucianism as only a philosophy and not a religion. Yet, what he said and did showed that he was religious. This can be seen in two respects. First, he had a reverent fear for supreme cosmic spiritual power. What the Chinese call heaven, which he regarded as the source of all virtue and moral goodness, and whose will he felt directs all things. Second, he placed great emphasis on meticulous observance of the rites and ceremonies relating to the worship of heaven and the spirits of departed ancestors. Though Confucius never advocated these views as a form of religion, to generations of Chinese, they've become what religion's all about. His financial status apparently improved, so that he married at age 19 and had a son the next year in his middle 20s. However, his mother died. That evidently had quite an effect on him. Being a meticulous observer of ancient traditions, Confucius retired from public life and mourned his mother at her grave for 27 months. Thus furnishing the Chinese with a classic example of filial piety. It's a virtue and primary duty of respect, obedience, and care for one's parents and elderly family members. It's an awareness of repaying the burden borne by one's parents and is done to reciprocate the care one's parents have given. Also means good to one's parents, to take care of them, to engage in good conduct, to show love, respect, and support. It historically been a traditional Chinese virtue. Thereafter, he left his family and took up the occupation of a wandering teacher. The subject he taught included music, poetry, literature, civics, ethics, and science. Or what there was of it at the time. He must have made quite a name for himself, for it was said that one time as many as 3,000 students, he must have made quite a name for himself, for it was said that one time he had as many as 3,000 students. 3,000 students. In the Orient, Confucius revered principally as a master teacher. In fact, epitaph on his grave One Western writer describes his teaching methods this way. He walked about from place to place, accompanied by those who were absorbing his views of life. Whenever the journey took from any distance, he rode in on the bull cart. The slow pace of the animal enabled his pupils to follow on foot, and it is evident that the subject of his lectures was frequently suggested by events occurring on the road. Interestingly, Jesus, at a later date and independently, used a similar method. Confucian, 4 books and 5 classics. Out of the 4 books, one, The Great Learning, the basis of a gentleman's education, the first text studied by schoolboys in old India. Old China. The Doctrine of the Mean, a treatise of the development of human nature through moderation. A collection of Confucius sayings. 3. A collection of Confucius sayings, considered the main source of Confucian thought. 4. The Book of Mencius, writings and sayings of Confucius, greatest disciple. The 5 classics. The Book of Poetry contains 305 poems, providing a picture of a daily life in early times. 2 is the Book of History, covering 17 centuries of Chinese history, beginning with the beginning. 3, the Book of Changes, a book of divination based on interpretations of the 64 possible combinations of 6 whole or broken lines. 4, the Book of Rites, a collection of rules on ceremonies and rituals. 5, Annals of Spring and Autumn, History of Confucius' Native State. What made Confucius an honored teacher among the Orientals, no doubt, was the fact that he was a good student himself, especially of history and ethics. People were attracted to Confucius less because he was the wisest man of his time than because he was the most learned scholar, the only one of his day who could teach them about the ancient books and ancient scholarship. Pointing to this love of learning and perhaps the key reason Confucianism triumphed over other schools of thought, Lin summarized the matter of this way. Confucian teachers had something definite to teach. And the Confucian pupils had something definite to learn, namely historical learning, while the other schools were forced to air merely their own thoughts. Their own opinions. Is it heaven that knows me? In spite of his success as a teacher, Confucius did not consider teaching to be his life work. Probably felt that his ideas on ethics and morals could save the troubled world of his day if only the rulers would apply them by employing him or his pupils in the government. To this end, he had a small group of his closest disciples left. To this end, he had a small group of his closest disciples left his native state and went traveling from state to state trying to find the wise ruler who would adopt his ideas on government and social order. What was the outcome? Finally, he left, was abandoned and driven out, suffered want between after 14 years on the road. He returned, disappointed but not broken. For the remainder of his days, he devoted himself to literary work and teachings. Though undoubtedly he lamented his obscurity, he said, "I do not murmur against heaven. I do not grumble against man. I pursue my studies here on earth and am in touch with heaven above. It is heaven that knows me." Finally, in the year 479 BC, he died at age 73. Although Confucius excelled as a scholar and as a teacher, his influence was by no means limited to scholastic circles. In fact, the aim of Confucius was not to just teach rules of conduct or morals, but also restore peace and order to society, which was, at the same time, torn apart by the constant warfare between the feudal lords, as it were. To achieve that goal, Confucius taught that everyone, from the emperor to the common folk, must listen to what role he was expected to play in society and live accordingly. Confucianism, this concept is known as, which means propriety, courtesy, the order of things, and, by extension, ritual, ceremony, and reverence. In answer to the question, what is great? What is this great Li? Confucius gave the following explanation. Of all things that the people live by, Li is the greatest Without Li, we do not know how to conduct proper worship of the spirits of the universe, or how to establish proper status of the king and the ministries and the ministers and the ruler and the ruled and the elders and the juniors, or how to establish the moral relationship between sexes, between parents and children, between brothers, or how to distinguish the different degrees of relationships in the family. That's why a gentleman holds Li in such high regard. Hence, Li is the rule of conduct by which a true gentleman carries out all his social relations. When everyone endeavors to do so, everything becomes right in the family, the state, and the world, said Confucius. And that is when Tao, our heaven's way, is done. Or whenever heaven's way is done. But how is Li to be expressed? That takes us to another of the central concepts of Confucianism. Zhen, pronounced Ren. Humaneness or human-heartedness. While Li emphasizes restraint by external rules, Zhen deals with human nature, or the inner person. The Confucian concept, especially as expressed by Confucius. Principal discipline, Mencius, is that human nature is basically good. Thus the solution to all social ills lies in self-cultivation, and that starts with education and knowledge. The opening chapter of the Great Learning says, when true knowledge is achieved, then the will becomes sincere. When the will is sincere, then the heart is set right. When the heart is set right, then the personal life is cultivated. When personal life is cultivated, then the family life is regulated. When the family life is regulated, then the national life is orderly. And when the national life is orderly, then there is peace in the world. From the emperor down to the common man, all must regard the cultivation of the personal life as the root or foundation. Thus, we see that according to Confucius, the observance of Li will enable people to behave properly in every situation. And the cultivation of Zhen will make them treat everyone else kindly. The result, theoretically, is peace and harmony in society. The Confucian ideal, based on the principles of Li and Zhen, can be summarized this way. Kindness in the father, filial piety in the son, gentility in the eldest brother, humility and respect in the younger. Righteous behavior in the husband, obedience in the wife, humane consideration in elders, deference in juniors, benevolence in rulers, loyalty in ministries and subjects. All of this helps to explain why most Chinese people and even other Orientals place so much emphasis on family ties, on being industrious, on education, on knowing and acting according to one's place. For better or for worse. For better or for worse. These Confucian concepts have been driven deep into the Chinese consciousness through centuries. Confucianism became a state cult, With the rise of Confucianism, the period of the 100 schools came to an end. Confucianism was elevated to the status of a state cult. Only those versed in Confucian classes were selected as state officials, and anyone hoping to enter government service had to pass nationwide examinations based on the Confucian classics. Confucian rites and rituals became the religion of the royal house. This change of events did much to elevate the position of Confucius in Chinese society. The Han Emperor started the tradition of offering sacrifices at the grave of Confucius. Horrific titles were bestowed on him. Emperor Tang ordered that a state temple of Confucius be erected in every province and county through the empire, and that sacrifices be offered regularly. For all practical purposes, Confucius was elevated to the status of a god, and Confucianism became a religion, hardly distinguishable from Taoism or Buddhism. The legacy of the wisdom of the East. Since the end of the dynastic rule in China in 1911, Confucianism and Taoism have come under much criticism, even persecution. Taoism was discredited on its account of its magical and superstitious practices. And Confucianism had been labeled as feudalistic, promoting a slave mentality to keep people, especially women, under subjection. In spite of such official denunciations, however, the basic concepts of these religions are so deeply embedded in the Chinese mind that they still have a stronghold on many of the people. For example, under the headline, Chinese religious rites rare in Beijing, but flourishing on the coastal regions, The Canadian newspaper Globe and Mail reported in 1987 that after nearly 40 years of atheistic rule in China, funeral rites, temple services, and many superstitious practices are still common in rural areas. Most villages have a feng shui man, usually an elder who knows how to read the forces of the wind and water to determine the most propitious location for everything from the ancestral grave to a new house or living room furniture, says the report. Elsewhere, Taoism and Confucianism are found wherever traditional Chinese culture services in Taiwan. One man who claims to be a descendant presides as celestial master with the power to ordain Taoist priests popular goddess Matsu, billed as Holy Mother in Heaven, is worshipped as the patron saint of the island and of sailors and fishermen. As for the common people, they're mostly preoccupied with making offerings and sacrifices to the spirits of the rivers, mountains, and stars. The patron deities of all the trades and the gods of health, good luck, and wealth. What about Confucianism? Its role as religion has been reduced to the status of a national monument. The state maintains the Temple of Confucius and family grounds as tourist attractions. There, according to the magazine, performances are put on reenacting a ritual of worship for Confucius. And in Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and other places in Eastern Asia, people still celebrate Confucius' birthday. In Confucianism and Taoism, based on human wisdom and reasoning, no matter how logical and well-meaning, ultimately falls short in the search for true God. Why? Because it leaves out one essential element, namely the will and requirements of personal good. I'm sorry. Personal God. It leaves out the essential element, namely I didn't hear that. Turns out human nature has a motivating force to do good, and Taoism turns to nature itself. But this misplaced confidence because it simply amounts to worshiping created things rather than the Creator. The traditions of ancestors and idol worship have become so deeply rooted in certain ways of thinking. They think that it's accepted as the unspoken truth. Traditions of ancestor and idol worship reverence for a cosmic heaven and veneration of spirits in nature, as well as the rites and rituals connected with them, have become so deeply rooted in the Chinese way of thinking that they are accepted as the unspoken truth. Often it's very difficult to talk to a Chinese person about a personal God or a creator because the concept is so foreign to him. It's undeniable that nature is filled with great marvels and wisdom, that we humans are endowed with the wonderful facilities of reason and conscience. But as pointed out in the chapter on Buddhism, the wonders we see in the natural world have caused reasoning minds to conclude that there must be a designer or creator. That being the case, then it is not logical that we should endeavor to search out the creator. In fact, the creator invites us to do so. Raise your eyes and see who has created these things. It's the one who's bringing forth the army of them, even by number, all of whom he calls even by name. Isaiah 40:26. Doing so, we will come to know not only who the Creator is, namely Jehovah, God, but also what He has in store for our future. Let's read Isaiah 40:26, shall we? Isaiah 40:26. Lift your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these? He who brings out the starry host one by one, and calls forth each of them by name, because of his great power and mighty strength. Not one of them is missing. Alright, I'll read that again. Lift up your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these? He who brings out the starry host one by one and calls forth each of them by name because of his great power and mighty strength. Not one of them is missing. Discover Jesus' miracles. Here's a free study. Because my father was a Shinto priest, we were told to offer a glass of water and a bowl of steamed rice every morning before breakfast. After the act of worship, we took down the bowl of rice and ate from it. By doing so, I was confident that the gods would protect us. When we purchased the house, we carefully confirmed the auspicious location of the new house in relation to our old one by consulting a shaman or a spirit medium. He cautioned us about 3 demon gates and instructed us to follow the purification procedure that my father prescribed. So we purified those quarters with salt once every month. Once every month. Shinto is predominantly a Japanese religion according to Jiten, Encyclopedia of Japanese Religions. The formation of Shin Taoism is almost identical with the Japanese ethnic culture, and is a religious culture that was never practiced apart from this ethnic society. But Japanese business and cultural influences are now so widespread that it could interest us to know what religious factors have shaped Japan's history and the Japanese personality. Although Shinto claims a membership of over 91 million in Japan, which amounts to about 3/4 of its population. A survey reveals that only 2 million people, or 3% of the adult population, really profess to believe in Shinto. However, a researcher in Shinto says Shinto is so inextricably woven into the fabric of Japanese daily life that people are barely aware of its existence. To the Japanese, it's less than a religion. It's less a religion than an unobtrusive environmental fixture, like the air they breathe. Even those who claim to be apathetic to religion will buy Shinto traffic safety amulets, have their weddings according to Shinto tradition, and pour their money into Shinto festivals. The designation Shinto sprang up from the 8th century to distinguish the local religion from Buddhism, which was being introduced into Japan. Of course, the religion of the Japanese existed before the introduction of Buddhism, explains Hiro, a researcher of Japanese religions. But it was a subconscious religion consisting of customs and mores, M-O-R-E-S. With the introduction of Buddhism, however, people became aware of the fact that those mores constituted a Japanese religion. Mores, consisting of the custom and mores. With the introduction of Buddhism, however, the people became aware that the fact that those mores constituted a Japanese religion different from Buddhism, which was a foreign religion. How did this Japanese religion evolve? It is difficult to pinpoint a date when the original Shinto or religion of the Japanese emerged with the advent of the wetland civilization of rice. Wetland agriculture necessitated well-organized and stable communities, explains the Encyclopedia of Japan. And agricultural rights, which later played such an important role in Shinto. Those early people conceived of and revered numerous gods of nature. In addition to this reverence, fear of departed souls led to rites for appeasing them. This later developed into worship of ancestral spirits. According to Shinto's belief, a departed soul still has its personality and is stained with death pollution immediately after death. When the bereaved perform memorial rites, the soul is purified to the point of removing all malice, and it takes on a peaceful and benevolent character. In time, the ancestral spirit rises to the position of an ancestral or guardian deity. Thus we find that the immortal soul belief is fundamental to yet another religion and conditions to the attitudes and actions of the believers. Psalm 146:4, Ecclesiastes 9:5, 6, and 10. When the spirit departs, they return to the ground. On that very day, their plans come to nothing. Ecclesiastes 9:5. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no further reward, and even their name is forgotten. I have seen another evil under the sun, and it weighs heavily on mankind. God gives some people wealth, possessions, and honor, so that they lack nothing their hearts desire, but God does not grant them the ability to enjoy them, and strangers enjoy them instead. This is meaningless, a grievous evil. A man may have 100 children and live many years, yet no matter how long he lives, if he cannot enjoy his prosperity and does not receive proper burial, I say that a stillborn child is still better off than he. It comes without meaning, it departs in darkness, and in darkness its name is shrouded. Though it never saw the sun or knew anything, it has more rest than does that man. Even if he lives 1,000 years, twice over, but fails to enjoy his prosperity, do not all go to the same place? Everyone's toil is for their mouth, yet their appetite is never satisfied. What advantage have the wise over fools? What do the poor gain? By knowing how to conduct themselves before others, better what the eyes see than the roving of the appetite. This too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Whatever exists has already been named, and what humanity is has been known. No one can contend with someone who is stronger. The more the words, the less the meaning. How does that profit anyone? For who knows what is good for a person in life during a few and meaningless days they pass through like a shadow? Who can tell them what will happen under the sun after they are gone? It's Ecclesia. As dead flies give perfume a bad smell, so a little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. The heart of the wise inclines to the right, but the heart of the fool to the left. Even as fools walk along the road, they lack sense and show everyone how stupid they are. If a ruler's anger arises against you, do not leave your post. Calmness can lay great offenses to rest. There is an evil I have seen under the sun, a sort of error that arises from a ruler. Fools are put in many high positions, while the rich occupy the low ones. I have seen slaves on horseback, while princes go on foot like slaves. Whoever digs a pit may fall into it. Whoever breaks through a wall may be bitten by a snake. Whoever quarries stones may be injured by them. Whoever splits logs may be endangered by them. If the axe is dull at its edge, and its edge is unsharpened, more strength is needed, but skill will bring success. If a snake bites before it is charmed, the charmer receives no fee. Words from the mouth of the wise are gracious. But fools are consumed by their own lips. At the beginning, their words are folly. At the end, they are wicked madness. And fools multiply words. No one knows what is coming. Who can tell someone else what will happen after them? The toils of fools wearies them. They do not know the way to town. Woe to the land whose king was a servant, and whose princes feast in the morning. Blessed is the land whose king is of noble birth, and whose princes eat at a proper time. For strength and not for drunkenness. Through laziness the rafters sag. Because of idle hands the house leaks. A feast is made for laughter. Wine makes life merry, and money is the answer for everything. Do not revel the king even though in your thoughts, or curse the rich in your bedroom. Do not revel the king even in your thoughts, or curse the rich in your bedroom, because a bird in the sky may carry your words, and a bird on the wing may report what you say. Gods of nature and ancestral gods were considered to be spirits, floating in and filling the air. During festivals, people called upon the gods to descend to the specific sites sanctioned for the occasion. Gods were said to take temporary residence in Shintai. Objects of worship such as trees, stones, mirrors, and swords. Shamans, or the spirit mediums, presided over rituals to call down the gods. Gradually, the landing sites of the gods, which were temporarily purified for festivals, took on a more permanent form. People built shrines for benevolent gods, those who appeared to bless them. At first, they did not carve images of the gods, but worshipped the Shintai, in which spiritual gods were said to reside. Even an entire mountain, such as Fuji, could serve as a Shintai. In time, there came to be so many gods that the Japanese developed the expression Yeyorozu no Kami. Yeyorozu no Kami, which literally means 8 million gods. Kami means gods or deities. The expression is used to signify countless gods, since the number of deities in the Shinto religion is ever increasing. Myth says that far back in time, the god said frightened Amaterasu, and she hid in a rocky cave, blocking the entrance with a boulder. The world was plunged into darkness, and so the gods devised a plan. They collected crowing cocks who herald the dawn and made a large mirror. On the sakaki trees, they hung jewels and cloth streamers. As Shinto rituals concentrated around shrines, each clan enshrined Each clan is enshrined within the guardian deity. However, when the imperial family unified the nation in the 7th century, they elevated their sun goddess to be a national deity and central figure for Shinto gods. A religion of festivals and rituals. These two books of Shinto mythology, however, were not considered to be inspired scriptures. Interestingly, Shinto does not have a known founder or a Bible. Shinto is a religion of a series of withouts, explains scholar. It is without definite doctrine and without detailed theology. It is as good as without any precepts to be observed. Although I was brought up in a family that has traditionally adhered to Shinto, I have no recollection of being given serious religious education. For Shintoists, doctrines, precepts, and at times, even what they worship are not important. Even at the same shrine, a Shinto researcher, the enshrined god was often exchanged for another, and at times people who worshiped those gods and offered prayers to them were not aware of the change. What then is of vital importance to Shintoists? Originally, says the Book of Japanese Culture, Shinto, a religion of festivals. The Japanese year is full of religious festivals, or matsuri. The following are some of the principal ones. Shukatsu, or the New Year Festival. Setsubun, bean throwing inside and outside homes while shouting, "Devil's out, good luck in." Matsuri, or doll festival for girls, held from client imperial household display. Boys festival. Carp streamers symbolizing strength. A platform of dolls depicting imperial household. The offering of the first new rice, celebrated by the imperial family, is in November. When the new rice is tasted by the emperor, who presides as chief priest of the imperial Shinto, or Shinto. Hichi-san, which means celebrated by families in November. Viewed as an important transition year. Many Buddhist festivals are also celebrated, including Buddha's birthday on April 8th. Which ends with lanterns floating outside on sea or stream to guide the ancestral spirits back to the other world. Considered acts that promoted the harmony and livelihood of a small community as good, and those that hindered such as bad. Harmony with God's nature and the community was considered to be superlative value. Anything that disrupted the peaceful harmony of the community was bad, regardless of its moral value. Since Shinto has no formal doctrine or teaching, its way of promoting the harmony of community is through rituals and festivals. What is most important in Shintoism, explains the encyclopedia, is whether we celebrate festivals or not. Feasting together at festivals around ancestral gods contributed to a cooperative spirit among people in the rice-growing community. Major festivals were and still are related to rice cultivation in the spring. Village people call upon the god of paddies to come down to their village, and they pray for a good crop in the fall. They thank their gods for harvest. During festivals, they carry their gods around on a portable shrine and have communion of rice wine and food with the gods. To be in union with the gods, however, Shintoists believe that they must be cleansed and purified from all their moral impurity and sin. This is where rituals come in. There are two ways to purify a person or an object. A Shinto priest swings a branch of evergreen sake tree with paper or flax tied to its tip to purify an item or a person. Whereas water is used. These purification rituals are so vital to the Shinto religion that one Japanese authority states, "It may safely be said that without these rituals, Shinto cannot stand as a religion." Festivals and rituals lingered with Shinto despite the transformation of the Shinto religion has gone through over the years. What transformation? One Shinto researcher likens the change in Shinto to those of dress-up doll. When Buddhism was introduced, Shinto closed itself with Buddhist teaching. When people needed moral standard, it put on Confucianism. Shinto had been extremely adaptable. However, Shintoists believed that they must be cleansed and purified from all their immoral impurity. This is where rituals come in. There are two ways one may purify a person: festivals, rituals, wells. Despite the transformation that the Shinto religion has gone through, beyond wells, I would say, things and stuff and such. So, I feel as though, first off, the fusing of the elements, religion into another, took place very early in history. Although Confucianism and Taoism is known in Japan as the way of yin and yang, had infiltrated the Shinto religion. Buddhism was the major ingredient that blended with the Shinto. When Buddhism entered the way by China and Korea, the Japanese labeled their traditional religious practices as Shinto, or the way of the gods. However, with the advent of a new religion, Japan was divided on whether to accept Buddhism or not. The pro-Buddhist camp insisted. All neighboring countries worship that way. Why should Japan be different? The anti-Buddhist faction disputed if we worship the neighboring gods. Yeah, let's work the neighboring gods. We will be provoking anger of our own gods after decades of discord. The pro-Buddhists won. By the end of the 6th century CE, when Prince embraced Buddhism, the new religion had taken root. The anti-Buddhist faction disputed if we should or should not worship the neighboring gods. Put that to rest. After decades of discord, pro-Buddhists won out. By the end of the 6th century, when Prince embraced Buddhism and a new religion had taken root, as Buddhism spread to rural communities, it encountered the local Shinto deities, whose existence was strongly entrenched in the daily lives of the people. The two religions had to compromise to coexist. Buddhist monks practicing self-discipline in the mountains helped to fuse the two religions. As mountains were considered the dwellings of Shinto divinities, the monks' aesthetic practices in the mountain gave rise to the idea of mixing Buddhism and Shinto, which also led to the building of Jinguji, or shrine temples. Gradually, a fusion of the two religions took place as Buddhism took the initiative in forming religious theories. Meanwhile, the belief that Japan was a divine nation was taking root. When the Mongols attacked Japan in the 13th century, my bad. When the Lamas or when the Mongols? Oh, when the Mongols attacked Japan, it was the 13th century as well. Those arose belief in the kamikaze. Literally, divine wind. Twice the Mongols raided the island with overwhelming fleets, and twice they were overthrown by storms. Japanese credited these storms to winds or kazi, to their Shinto gods, kami. This greatly enhanced the reputation of their gods, and confidence in Shinto deities swelled. They were viewed as being the original gods, whereas Buddha's enlightened ones and bodhisattvas who help others achieve enlightenment were seen only as temporary local manifestations. As a result, the Shinto versus Buddhist conflict, various schools of Shinto developed. Some emphasized Buddhism, others elevated in Shinto pantheon, and still others used a later form of Confucianism to adorn their teachings. After many years of compromising, Shinto theologians decided that their religion had been defiled by Chinese religious thinkers. So they insisted on a return to the ancient Japanese way. A new school of Shinto known as Restoration Shinto emerged with Noriyanga or Motori, pronounced Moto Ori. It's an 18th century scholar as one of its most foremost theologians and searched in the areas of the origin of the Japanese culture. Motori studied the classics, especially the Shinto writing called Kojiki. He taught the superiority of the sun goddess, but left the relation for natural phenomena vaguely up to the gods. In addition, according to his teaching, divine providence is unpredictable, and it is disrespectful for men to try to understand it. Ask no questions and be submissive to divine providence was his idea. Isaiah 1:18. We'll read in a second. One of his followers enlarged on Noringa's idea and tried to purify Shinto. rid it of all Chinese influences. What did Hirata do to you? He fused Shinto with apostatized tradition theology. A god mentioned in the Christianity, and described this presiding god of the universe as having two subordinate gods. Two subordinate gods. I'm sure if we were living in times where there was two subordinate gods, with a Napoleon complex, you know what you need? You need rest. And described in this presiding god of the universe as taking two subordinate gods. The high producing and the divine producing. Who appear to represent male and female principles. Yes, he adopted the teaching of a triune God from Roman Catholicism. Although it never became mainstream Shinto teaching, as far as the public is concerned. Blending of so-called Christianity into Shinto, however, finally grafted Christendom's form in monotheism into the Shinto mind. Isaiah 40, 25, 26. Alright, we're going to read Isaiah 1:18, and we're going to read these verses right here. Well, actually, we're going to read these verses here. Not a problem. Easy peasy, slim and squeezy. Come now, let us settle the matter. Come now, let us settle the matter. Come now, let us settle the matter, says the Lord. Though your sins are like scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they are red as crimson, they shall be like wool. There's more to read from Isaiah. I'm going to read Isaiah 40. Comfort, comfort my people, says your God. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem, and proclaim to her that her hard service has been completed, that her sin has been paid for, and that she has received from the Lord's hand double for all her sins. A voice of one calling in the wilderness, Prepare the way for the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be raised up, every mountain and hill made low. The rough ground shall become level, the rugged places of a plain. And the glory of the God will be revealed to all people who will see it together, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. And a voice says, "Cry out!" And I say, "What shall I cry?" As people are like grass, and their faithfulness is like the flowers of the field. The grass withers and the flowers fall, because the breath of the Lord blows on them. Surely the people are grass. The grass withers and all the flowers fall, but the word of our God endures forever. You who bring good news to Zion, go up on a high mountain. You who bring good news to Jerusalem, lift up your voice with a shout. Lift it up. Don't be afraid, says to the towns of Judah. Here is your God. See the sovereign Lord come with power. He says, "See, the sovereign Lord comes with power, and he rules with a mighty arm. See, his reward is with him, and his recompense accompanies him. He tends his flock like a shepherd. He gathers the lambs in his arms. He carries them close to his heart. He gently leads those that have young. He has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, or with the breath of his hand marked off the heavens. Who has held the dust of the earth in a basket, or weighed the mountains on the scales and the hills in a balance? Who can fathom the Spirit of the Lord, or instruct the Lord as his counselor? Who did the Lord consult to enlighten him? Who taught him the right way? Who was it that taught him knowledge, or showed him the path of understanding? ? Surely the nations are like a drop in a bucket. They are regarded as dust on the scales. He weighs the islands as though they were fine dust. Lebanon is not sufficient for altar fires, nor its animals enough to be burnt offerings. Before him all nations are nothing. They are regarded as by him worthless and less than nothing. With whom, then, will you compare God? To what image will you liken him? As for an idol, a metal worker casts it. A goldsmith overlays it with gold and fashions silver chains. A person too poor to present such an offering selects wood that will not rot. They look for a skilled worker to set up an idol that will not topple. Do you know? Have you not heard? Has it not been told to you from the beginning? Have you not understood since the earth was founded? He sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and its people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a canopy. He spreads them out like a tent to live in. He brings princes to naught. He reduces the rulers of this world to nothing. No sooner are they planted, no sooner are they sown. No sooner do they take root in the ground, then he blows on them, and they wither. And a whirlwind sweeps them away like a chaff. To whom will you compare me? Or who is my equal? Says the Holy One. Lift up your voice and look up to the heavens. Who created all these? He who brings out the starry host one by one and calls forth each by name. Because of his great power and his mighty strength, not one of them is missing. Why do you complain, Jacob? Why do you say, Israel? my way is hidden from the Lord, because my cause is disregarded by my God? Question mark. Do you know? Have you not heard? The Lord is everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary, increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not be weary. They will walk and not be faint. Divine! Divine! Oh, divine! Divine, divine. Yep. Yep. That's my Bible. That's my Bible. Isaiah 43, or a voice of one calling in the wilderness. Prepare the way for the Lord. Praise to the Lord. You are my God. I will exalt you and praise your name. For in perfect faithfulness, you have done wonderful things. Things planned long ago. You've made the city a heap of rubble, the fortified town a ruin, the foreigners' stronghold a city no more. It will never be rebuilt. Therefore, strong people will honor you. Cities of ruthless nations will revere you. You have been a refuge to the poor, a refuge for the needy in their distress, a shelter from the storm, and shade from the heat. For the breath of the ruthless is like a storm driving against the wall, and like the heat of a desert, you silence the uproar of foreigners. As heat is reduced by the shadow of a cloud, so the song of the ruthless is stilled. On this mountain, the Lord Almighty will prepare a feast of rich food for all people, a banquet of aged wine, the best meats and the finest wines. On this mountain, he will destroy the shroud that enfolds all peoples, the sheet that covers all nations. He will swallow up death forever. The sovereign Lord will wipe away the tears from all the faces. He will remove his people's disgrace from all the earth. The Lord has spoken. In that day, surely this is our God. We trust in him. He saved us. This is the Lord we trust. This is the Lord, we trust in him. Let us rejoice and be glad in his salvation. The Lord will rest on this mountain, but Moab will be trampled in their land, as straw is trampled down in the manure. They will stretch out their hands in it, as swimmers stretch out their hands to swim. God will bring down their pride, despite the cleverness of their hands. He will bring down your high fortified walls and lay them low. He will bring them down to the ground, to the very dust. In that day, this song will be sung in the land of Judah. We have a strong city. God makes salvation its walls and ramparts. Open the gates, that the righteous nation may enter. The nation that keeps faith, you will keep in perfect peace. Those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. Trust in the Lord forever. For the Lord himself, is the rock eternal. He humbles those who dwell on high. He lays the lofty cities low. He levels it to the ground and casts it down to the dust. Feet trample on it, the feet of the oppressed, the footsteps of the poor. The path of the unrighteous is level. You, the upright one, make the way of the righteous smooth. Yes, Lord, walking in the way of your laws, we wait for you. Your name and renown are the desires of our hearts. My soul yearns for you in the night. In the morning my spirit longs for you. When your judgment comes upon the earth, the people of the world learn righteousness. But when grace is shown to the wicked, they do not lean on righteousness. Even in the land of uprightness, they go on doing evil and do not regard the majesty of the Lord. Lord, your hand is lifted high, but they do not see it. Let them see your zeal for your people and be put to shame. Let the fire reserved for your enemies consume them. Lord, you establish peace for us. All that we have accomplished, you have done for us. Lord, our God, other lords besides you have ruled over us, but your name alone do we honor. Your name alone do we honor. They are now dead. They live no more. Their spirits do not rise. You pushed them. You brought them to ruin. You wiped out all memory of them. You have enlarged the nation. Lord, you have enlarged the nation. You have gained glory for yourself. You have extended all the borders of the land. Lord, they came to you in distress whenever you descend. Lord, they came to you in distress when you disciplined them. They could barely whisper a prayer as a pregnant woman about to give birth writhes and cries and out in her pain. So we were in your presence, Lord. We were with child. We writhed in labor, but we gave birth to wind. We have not brought salvation to the earth, and the people of the world have not come to live, or have not come to life. But your dead will live, Lord. Their bodies will rise. Let those who dwell in the dust wake up and shout for joy. Your dew is like the dew of the morning. The earth will give birth to their dead. The earth will give birth to her dead. Go, my people, enter your rooms and shut the doors behind you. Hide yourselves for a little while until his wrath has passed by. See, the Lord is coming out of his dwelling to punish the people of the earth for their sins. The earth will disclose the blood shed on it. The earth will conceal its slain no longer. Hirata's theology became the basis for the revere of the emperor movement, which led to the overthrowing of the feudal military dictators, the shoguns, and to the restoration of imperial rule in 1868. With the establishment of the imperial government, disciples were appointed to be the government commissioners of the Shinto worship, and they promoted a movement towards making Shinto the state religion. Under the then new constitution, the emperor, viewed as a direct descendant of the sun goddess, was considered sacred and inviolable. He thus became the supreme god of state Shinto. Psalm 146, 3 through 5. Psalm 146, 3 to 5. One 46 3-5. Do not put your trust in princes, in human beings who cannot save. When their spirit departs, they return to the ground. On that very day, their plans come to nothing. Blessed are those who help. Blessed are those whose help is the God of Jacob, whose hope is in the Lord their God. Your nude legs where? Well, If I'm nude, then you should know where my legs are. Brother. Where? Is there a missing face on the milk carton or some shit like that? Call 867-5309. Okay. You're nude. That's hot. We've been reading to you for 2.5 hours. Roxy! I'll be right back. Let me let my dog outside. Let me let my dog outside and not hacer dice stuff and such. I don't say things and stuff and such, but... Aw, she doesn't want to go outside. She wants to come inside. Alright. I left the door open. She came by. Those that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles, run and not be weary, walk but not faint. Walk and not, that's too many but. Walks and not faint. That scripture is your favorite. What's that video called? We're going to have a segment where I vibe. You know, guys, we are vibing, of course. We're always vibing. This is variety vibes, you know what I'm saying? Just like a box of chocolates, you never know what you're gonna get. Stated. Okay. So we've been on for 2 hours and 31 minutes. It's actually an angel number. The 231 angel number is a sign of balance, creativity, self-expression, new beginnings, and opportunities. It's a combination of the vibrations of the numbers 2, 3, and 1, which represent harmony, growth, and leadership. The 231 angel number encourages you to be confident in your decisions and take control of your life. It also urges you to use your creative skills to express yourself and develop your talents. Two, 3, 1 angel number meaning. And numerology has been around for centuries and has been used by many people to get a deeper understanding of their lives. One of the most fascinating concepts in numerology is the angel number 231. It's no surprise that many people are seeing this number repeatedly, as it carries a powerful message from the angels. Here's the ultimate guide to understanding the angel number 231 with sections on its numerology meaning, spiritual meaning, twin flame meaning, and more. Numerology meaning of the angel number 231. Numerology meaning of the angel number 231 is a combination of the energies of the numbers 2, 3, and 1. The number 2 brings balance and harmony, while the number 3 represents creativity, self-expression, and growth. The number 1 is about manifestation, that represents new beginnings and opportunities. Together, these numbers create a powerful message of creating a harmonious balance in your life, allowing room for self-expression and growth, and seizing new opportunities in life. Meaning of seeing angel number 231. Seeing angel number 231 repeatedly is a sign that the angels are trying to get your attention. They want you to pay attention to the balance in your life and embrace your creativity and self-expression. This number is also a message that opportunities are around the corner, and you might be prepared to seize them when they appear. Your angels are telling you that you are on the right path, and the universe is in alignment with your goals. Yes, angel number 231 is a manifestation number. It's important to remember that manifestation is not just about wishing for something and waiting for it to happen. It's about taking action to bring your dreams into reality. The number 1 and angel number 231 is a reminder to focus on your intentions and take action to create the life that you want. Don't wait for opportunities to come to you. Go out and create them for yourself. Spiritual meaning. And spiritual meaning. Angel number 231 carries a strong message of spiritual growth. This number is a reminder that every experience in your life is an opportunity for spiritual growth and learning. The number 3 and angel number 231 represents the Holy Trinity, reminding you of your deep connection to the divine. This number is an encouragement to connect with your spiritual side and to seek the guidance of your angels and the divine. Love and relationships meaning for angel number 231. In love and relationships, Angel number 231 is a sign that balance is essential. This number is a reminder to communicate your needs in your relationships and create a harmonious balance between your own needs and the needs of your partner. If you're single, this number is a sign that you're about to meet someone who brings balance and harmony into your life. Trust the universe to bring the right person into your life at the right time. Money and career meaning. And when it comes to money and career, Angel number 231 is a sign that new opportunities are on their way. Number 1 in this number represents new beginnings and fresh starts. Your angels are encouraging you to take risks and step out of your comfort zone to seize these new opportunities. Trust in your own abilities and have faith that the universe is conspiring in your favor. Twin flame meaning of Angel number 231. For those on the journey finding their twin flame, Angel number 231 is a message that balance is crucial. This number is a reminder that you must work on yourself first before finding your twin flame. It's essential to balance your inner masculine and feminine energies and to deal with any inner wounds before you can attract your twin flame into your life. Trust that your angels are guiding you toward your path, towards the path of your twin flame. Biblical meaning. In the Bible, the number 2 represents balance and harmony, while the number 3 represents the Holy Trinity. I already read that. The Bible speaks of a harmonious balance in all aspects of life, and the Angel number 231 is a powerful reminder of this message. Negative meaning of 231. While Angel number 231 carries a predominantly positive message, there's a negative meaning associated with this number. If you're seeing this number repeatedly in a state of imbalance, it could be a sign that you're neglecting one aspect of your life, leading to a lack of growth and potential, missed opportunities. It's essential to take a step back and analyze your life to find balance and harmony. Angel number 231 is a powerful message from the angels that speaks of balance, creativity, self-expression, new beginnings, and opportunities. It's a sign that you're on the right path in life, and the universe is in alignment with your goals. Remember to take action to bring your dreams into reality, and to bring guidance, and to trust in the guidance of your angels and the divine. With this powerful number on your side, anything is possible. Sadie. For this episode and segment of the page, the stream, we're going to read a Bible verse. This is an A to Z resource to over 3,700 contemporary topics within the Bible. So, where to find it in the Bible? It's a contemporary topical resource that takes up where other concordances leave off, using common words, phrases, and whimsical illustrations to help you locate biblical sources on a myriad of subjects, both traditional and offbeat. This A to Z listing of topics puts key scriptures at your fingertips in language that's easy to understand, and it'll help you locate specific Bible references to over 3,700 different subjects, circumstances, and situations. It includes references and word variation for the New King James Version, King James Version, and other translations. This is a very valuable source, valuable resource for Bible readers, students, Sunday school teachers, counselors, pastors, and anyone who wants to find relevant Bible passages quickly and easily using everyday speech. So, with my eyes Alright. Okay. Hey, Rossi! I already know, like... And I just had a sense of, like, my modeling coach from, whenever look at I opened this. And freaking tools. And tools. Alright. Alright. It has to be this one. Persistent. Persistent. And then there's personality. Persistent and personality. Personality of an unborn child. Genesis 16:11 through 12. Twins contrasting personalities. Genesis 25:27. Blighted personalities. Deuteronomy 32:32. Quarrelsome personality. Proverbs 27:15 through 16. Clash of apostolic personalities. Struggle between flesh and spirit. Reaction to Christian personality. Fruitful spirit. Good elation. Joy. Gentleness. Personality given by Holy Spirit. Inner beauty. Alright, I giggle to myself because I can't remember how many times I had flipped through the book and every time it was very on point to it was just very on point. I was like, alright, let me just, let me flip through the book, close my eyes, it's like flipping through the dictionary, You never know what word you're gonna read. So, personality, or it was persistent. And alright, so at the top it says persistent, then right under that it says Satan given temporary power to persecute. And then I started seeing that, what is it? I noticed that across the page is personality, and I read through personality. And study these verses. Genesis 16:11 through 12. The angel of the Lord also said to her, "You are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You will name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard of your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he will live in hostility toward all his brothers." Personality of unborn child, Genesis 16:11-12. Twins contrasting personalities, Genesis 25:27. The death of Abraham. Abraham had taken another wife, whose name was Keturah. She bore him Zimran, Jokshan, and Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Jokshan was the father of Sheba and Dedan. The descendants of Dedan were Ashurite, Lemelite, the son of Midian, Epher. Let me start from 5. We'll start from 5. It makes sense starting from 5 if you read. There's just a bunch of names that I could barely say. Hanak. Alright, Abraham left everything he owned to Isaac. But while he was living, he gave gifts to the son of his concubines and sent them away from his son Isaac to the land of the east. Abraham lived 175 years. Then Abraham breathed his last and died at a good old age. An old man and full of years, and he was gathered to his people. His son Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of near Mamre, in the field of Ephron, son of Zohar, the Hittite? Hittite. I don't know how to say that. The field Abraham had bought from, Abraham buried his wife Sarah after Abraham's death. God blessed his son Isaac, who then lived. Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was childless. The Lord answered his prayer, and his wife, Rebekah, became pregnant. The babies jostled each other within her. She said, "Why is this happening to me?" So she went to inquire of the Lord. The Lord said to her, "Two nations are in your womb, and two peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other will serve the younger." When the time came for her to give birth, there were twin boys in her womb. The first to come out was red. His whole body was like a hairy garment. So they named him Esau. After his brother came out with his hand grasping Esau's heel, so he was named Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when Rebekah gave birth to them. The boys grew up, and Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the open country, while Jacob was content to stay at home among the tents. Isaac, who had a taste for wild game, loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Once, when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau came in from the open country famished. He said to Jacob, "Quick, let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished." That is why he was also called Edom. Jacob replied, "First sell me your birthright." "Look, I'm about to die," Esau said. "What good is the birthright to me?" But Jacob said, "Swear to me first." So he swore an oath to him, selling his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and some lentil stew, and he ate and drank, and then he got up and left. So Esau despised his birthright. Now there was a famine in the land, besides the previous famine in Abraham's time, and Isaac went to king of Philistines in Gerar. The Lord appeared to Isaac and said, "Do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land where I tell you to live. Stay in this land for a while, and I will be with you and bless you. For you and your descendants I will give all these lands, and I will confirm the oath I swore to your father Abraham. I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and I will give them all these lands, and through your offspring all nations on earth will be blessed, because Abraham obeyed me and did everything I required of him, keeping my commands, my decrees, and my instructions." So Isaac stayed in Gerar. When the men of that place asked him about his wife, he said, "She's my sister," because he was afraid to say, "She is my wife." He thought, "The men of this place might kill me on account of Rebekah, because she is beautiful." When Isaac had been there a long time, King of the Philistines, looked down from a window and saw Isaac caressing his wife Rebekah. So Abimelech summoned Isaac and said, "She's really your wife? Why do you say that? She's my sister." "She's really your wife? Why do you say that? She is my sister." Isaac answered him, "Because I thought I might lose my life on her account." Because I thought I might lose my life on account of her. "What is this you have done to us? One of the men might have slept with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us." So Ab gave orders to all the people, "Anyone who harms this man or his wife shall surely be put to death." Isaac planted crops in that land, and the same year reaped 100-fold because the Lord blessed him. He became rich, and his wealth continued to grow until he became very wealthy. He had so many flocks and herds and servants that the Philistines envied him. So all the wells that his father's servants had dug in the time of his father Abraham, the Philistines stopped up, filling them with earth. Ab said to Isaac, "Move away from us. You have become too powerful for us." So Isaac moved away from there and encamped in the valley of Gerar, where he settled. Isaac reopened the wells that had been dug in the time of his father Abraham, which Philistines had stopped up after Abraham died, and he gave the same names his father had given them. Isaac's servants dug in the valley and discovered a well of fresh water there. But the herders of Gerar quarreled with those of Isaac and said, "The water is ours." So he named the well Esek, like sector, or similar to sector. From there he went up to Beersheba. That night your Lord appeared to him and said, "I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. I will bless you, and I will increase the number of your descendants for the sake of my servant Abraham." There is an altar built there, and called on the name of the Lord. There he pitched his tent, and there his servants dug a well. Meanwhile, Ab had come to him from Gerar with Ahazath, his personal advisor, and Phicol, the commander of his forces. Isaac asked them, "Why have you come to me, since you were hostile to me and sent me away?" They answered, "We saw clearly that the Lord was with you, so we said, there ought to be a sworn agreement between us and you. Let's make a treaty with you, that you will do us no harm, just as we did not harm you, but always treated you well and sent you away peacefully. And now you are blessed." Deuteronomy 32:32. Listen, you heavens, and I will speak. Hear, you earth, the words of my mouth. Let my teaching fall like rain, and my words descend like dew, like showers on new grass, like abundant rain on tender plants. I will proclaim the name of the Lord. Oh, praise the greatness of our God. He is our rock. His works are perfect, and all his ways are just. A faithful God who does no wrong, upright and just is he. They are corrupt and not his children. To their shame, they are warped and crooked generation. This is the way you repay the Lord, you foolish and unwise people. Is this the way you repay the Lord, you foolish and wise people? Is he not your Father, your Creator, who made you and formed you? Remember the days of old. Consider the generations long past. Ask your father and he'll tell you, your elders, and they'll explain to you. When the Most High gave the nations their inheritance, when he divided all mankind, he set up boundaries for the peoples according to the number of the sons of Israel. For the Lord's portion of his people, Jacob, his allotted inheritance. In a desert land he found him, in a barren and howling waste. He shielded him and cared for him. He guarded him as the apple of his eye, like an eagle that stirs up its nest and hovers over its young, that spreads its wings to catch them and carries them aloft. The Lord alone led him. No foreign god was with him. He made him ride on the heights of the land and fed him with the fruit of the fields. He nourished him with the honey from the rock and with oil from the flinty crag, with curds and milk from the herd and flock, and with fattened lambs and goats, with choice rams of Bashan, and the finest kernels of wheat. You drank the flowing blood of the grape. Jeshurun grew fat and kicked, filled with food. They became heavy and sleek. They abandoned God who made them and rejected the rock, their Savior. They made him jealous with their foreign gods and angered him with their detestable idols. They sacrificed false gods, which are not God, gods they had not known, gods that recently appeared, gods your ancestors did not fear. You deserted the rock who fathered you. You forgot the God who gave you birth. The Lord saw this and rejected them because he was angered by his sons and daughters. I will hide my face from them, he said, and see what their end will be. For they are perverse generation, children who are unfaithful. They made me jealous by what is no God and angered me with their worthless idols. I'll make them envious by those who are not a people. I'll make them angry by a nation that has no understanding. For a fire will be kindled by my wrath, one that burns down the realm of the dead below. It will devour the earth and its harvests, and set afire the foundation of the mountains. I will heap calamities on them and spend my arrows against them. I will send wasting famine against them, consuming pestilence and deadly plague. I will send them the fangs of wild beasts, the venom of vipers that glide in the dust. In The streets, the sword will make them childless. In the homes will terror reign. Terror will reign. The young men and young women will perish, the infants and those with gray hair. I said I would scatter them and erase their name from human memory, but I dreaded the taunt of the enemy, lest the adversary misunderstand and say, our hand has triumphed. The Lord has not done all this. They are a nation without sense. There is no discernment in them. If only they were wise and would understand this and discern what their end will be. How could one man chase 1,000 or two, put 10,000 to flight, unless their rock had sold them, unless the Lord had given them up? For their rock is not like our rock, even as our enemies concede. Their vine comes from the vine of Sodom and from the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are filled with poison, their clusters with bitterness. Their wine is the venom of serpents, the deadly poison of cobras. Have I not kept this in reserve and sealed this in my vaults? It's mine to avenge. I will repay in due time. Their foot will slip. Their day of disaster is near, and their doom rushes upon them. The Lord will vindicate his people and relent concerning his servants. When he sees their strength is gone and there is no one left, slave or free, he will say, now where are the gods? The rock they took refuge in, the gods who ate the fat of their sacrifices, who drank the wine of their drink offerings, who let them rise up to help you? Let them give you shelter. See now that I myself am he. There is no God besides me. I put to death and I bring to life. I wounded and I will heal. And no one can deliver out of my hand. I lift my hand to heaven and solemnly swear, as surely as I live forever, that when I sharpen my flashing sword, my hands will grasp in its judgment, and I will take vengeance on my adversaries and repay those who hate me. I will make my arrows drunk with blood, while my sword devours flesh, the blood of the slain and the captives, the heads of the enemy leaders. Rejoice, you nations, with his people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants. He will take vengeance on his enemies and make astonishment for his landed people. Moses came with Joshua, son of Nun, and spoke all the words of this song in the hearing of the people. When Moses finished reciting all these words to all Israel, he said to them, take to heart all the words I have solemnly declared to you this day, so that you may command your children to obey carefully all the words of this law. They are not just idle words for you. They are your life. By them, you will live long, in the land you are crossing the Jordan to possess. On that same day, the Lord told Moses, go up to the range to Mount Nebo in Moab, across from Jericho, and view Canaan, the land I am giving the Israelites as their own possession. There on the mountain that you have climbed, you will die and be gathered to your people, just as your brother Aaron died on Mount Hor, and was gathered to his people. This is because both of you broke faith with me in the presence of the Israelites at the waters of Meribah, in the desert of Zin. And because you did not uphold my holiness among the Israelites, therefore you will see the land only from a distance. You will not enter the land I am giving to the people of Israel. Therefore, my brothers and sisters, you whom I love and long for, my joy and crown, stand firm in the Lord. In this way, dear friends, I plead with Euodia, and I plead with Syntyche to be the same mind in the Lord. Yes, I ask you, my true companion, help these people, since they have contended at my side in the cause of gospel, along with Clement and the rest of my co-workers. This was the closing appeal for steadfastness and unity. Final exhortations. Thanks for their gifts. I rejoice greatly in the Lord that at last you renewed your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned, but you had no opportunity to show it. I'm not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do this through him who gives me strength. Yet it was good for you to share in my troubles. Moreover, as you Philippians know, in the early days of your acquaintance with the gospel, when I set out from Macedonia, not one church shared with me in the matter of giving and receiving, except you only. For even when I was in Thessalonica, you sent me aid more than once when I was in need. Not that I desire your gifts. What I desire is to be more credited to your account. I have received full payment and have more than enough. I am amply supplied, now that I have received from Epaphroditus the gifts you sent. They are fragrant offering, an acceptable sacrifice, pleasing no God. And my God will meet all your needs according to the riches of the glory in Jesus Christ. The grace of the Lord Jesus Christ will be in your spirit. Amen. Discipline. That was the first one that came out. An unruly dog is a hazard to itself and others. An animal which has learned discipline and obedience can be trusted and will loyally, lovingly serve its master. It is then allowed off its lead. Through discipline comes freedom. Your higher self, you came to earth on a mission, and only self-discipline will enable you to fulfill it. Tune in and ask your angels for their help and support so that your life becomes happy and rewarding and divinely directed. Discipline is a key to fulfilling your destiny. Self-affirmation, and self-discipline brings me freedom. Serenity bestows inner peace, tranquility, and calmness of mind. When you feel serene, you are your own person, for nothing and no one can bother, upset, or influence you. You're like a calm, clear lake. Beautiful and peaceful to be with. Your quiet radiance brings hope and support to those who come within your aura. You attract respect and love from others, for all are calmed by you. As you become deeply serene, and still you connect to the higher powers within yourself, within the universe, within divine guidance, for your path in life becomes smooth and flowing. Quietly ask your angel to hold you. Affirmation. I am Stiggity. Stiggity. We've been on for 3 hours and 25 minutes. The last time that I decided to let y'all know how long that I've been on. Is 3 hours and 20. 3, 2, 1? No, it was 2, 3, 1. It was 2, 3, 1. So it was almost an hour ago. I am humbled to have shared this time with you. Be sure to follow, like, and share. Subscribe. Tune in. Similar to a box of chocolates, you never know what you're gonna get. As far as variety vibes, I'd say equivalent to a bag of Dum-Dums. Yeah, it's same meaning, or same metaphor. You know, reach into a bag of Dum-Dums, you know, you never know what flavor you're gonna be tasting, you know what I'm saying? So suck on that. Hey, and you're out of the Vibe Tribe. Happy to have shared this no makeup, pajama, relaxed, you know, just amazing, as forever. So much love. Till later. Stickity, stickity! Figadillet, figadillet! Ah!